Hi everyone, this is Victoria from We Are the Music Makers, and today I am talking about some of my favorite resources for creating a grade level song list that you might not have considered yet. One of the most practical things you can do at the beginning of each new school year is to revamp and revisit your selection of songs that you like to use for a specific grade level and a specific topic. This is your song list. Now, song lists can be very time consuming to put together, but once they are done, they are invaluable as you create your lesson plans for the rest of the year. So let's very briefly discuss what a song list is. A song list is just a collection of materials that you know you enjoy using to teach specific concepts. Some teachers prefer to put them in the categories of upper elementary and primary. Some teachers like to break them down by specific grade level, and then some teachers might use just an all elementary song list. Sometimes teachers prefer to list out their concepts in bullet points. So they'll say, for example, they'll have Takadimi, and then in bullet points, they'll list out all of the songs that they like to use to teach this concept. That is a great option. I go a little bit of a different route. I prefer to see a spreadsheet of a single song and all of its uses. That way I can kind of compare and I can cross-reference as I'm creating my lesson plans. So if you choose to go with the spreadsheet model, I recommend on the left-hand side of your page listing out all of your songs alphabetically, and then along the top of your spreadsheet listing out your specific concepts for that age group. So for second grade, you might put something like Mi, Re, Do, Takadimi, 4/4 time, whatever it is that you want to target in second grade, those concepts would go across the top. Now, I've talked already a good bit about song lists in some of my other videos, so I will link a few of those down below as well. Okay, the first place to think about looking for songs for a grade level song list is from your own childhood. When you were a kid, chances are pretty high that you had some songs you would sing at bedtime, or if you were a part of any religious organization, you might have had songs that you sang at your church. You probably had games that you used to chant to or sing songs to on the playground. Things like that are really wonderful to include in your grade level song list because you already have a story identified with that material. If you can't think of any songs or any chants, any rhymes that you used to use as a child, ask a family member. Siblings are a wonderful resource for this. So are cousins, aunts, uncles, anything like that. They can really help kind of jog your memory for those. Now, once you have those songs in your mind, it is ideal if you can kind of cross-reference and see if you can find them printed in any other source. That just helps with the validity of that song. Now, while we're talking about using your own past experience for song collections, you can also use your students. If you have kids or nieces or nephews, you can use them. So this is something I call playground field research. So oftentimes as you walk past the playground, you are going to hear students singing or chanting as they play their games. Music, rhythm, singing, these are natural parts of a child's play repertoire. So it is really common to hear these chants on the playground. These make a really lovely addition to your classroom materials because students already have a love and an interest in these materials. So you can start just by hanging out on the playground with your students, and then when you see them start to do a hand clapping game or a jump rope game or anything with a rhyme or a song associated with it, you can observe and then jump in and ask them to teach it to you. In my experience, when I've done this, students have been so excited to teach me their games. And learning from them, I have found a couple of gems in my collection that I wouldn't have known otherwise. Now, just like with your own childhood songs, when you are listing out your informant for this folk song, really, you can list the child's name who taught it to you. And then just like earlier when we we talked about your songs from your own childhood, it would be ideal if you could find it in another resource just to cross-reference. The third category for finding materials for your grade level song lists are books. Now, these books are tried and true. You likely already have one or two of these in your collection. So a few of my favorites are 150 American Folk Songs, 155 American Folk Songs. I really enjoy the book Folk Songs North America Sings. For my school, I also really enjoy the book Vamos a Cantar. I also enjoy the book Roots and Branches, as well as Let Your Voice Be Heard. Now, a quick aside, purchasing these books can get a little bit pricey, and so if your school budget is low, there are a couple things that you can do to kind of ease the cost of creating your physical songbook collection. My top 2 tips for this, number 1, any reputable university is going to have a good collection of folk materials in their music library, and most of the time they are just fine with you waltzing in and looking through their copies. A lot of universities even have a plan for you to get a library card even if you're not a student at that institution. So that's my first option. Find a local university and use their music resource library. Another really good option is reaching out to music teachers who are around you. We live in such a generous community of music educators, and in my experience, when I have reached out, whether on Facebook or Instagram or any like Orff or Kodály groups that I'm a part of, people are very willing to let you borrow their copies for a time, and that will let you just kind of look through, get a feel for what you are interested in that resource, and then you can hand it back to them. The next place to look for songs for your grade level song lists are websites. Now, a really quick aside here, when we are looking for folk resources online, it is ideal to find websites that list their sources for a song. It's just part of being a music teacher with integrity. So while there are a lot of websites out there with a lot of amazing materials and amazing songs, we are in a really wonderful place to be kind of picky with the sources that we use. Now, it is not the end of the world if you use a song in your classroom that doesn't have a very clear source for it. However, it might take away from some of the rich cultural background that that song has, and it might take away from the experience your students get from that song. We need to remember that songs don't exist in a vacuum. They exist as part of a cultural tapestry, and we do our students a real service when we can acknowledge and respect that cultural tapestry from which that song came. Now, that said, here are a few of my favorite websites for collecting song materials for your grade level song list. The first one is an obvious one. Holy Names University has just the most thorough collection of folk materials that I have ever come across. These songs are sorted by alphabetical order. You can look by subject, you could look by grade level, you could look by rhythmic element, melodic element, you could look by geographical area. The list goes on and on. The work they've put into this is so thorough, and this is really an invaluable resource for you. So if you have one website that you go to, it should definitely be Holy Names. Another song retrieval system that I enjoy is Kodály Hub. This is unique because it's open to anyone across the globe to upload songs. So I find that I get a lot of variations of some of these materials. When I come across songs that I enjoy, I upload those to my website. You can find my folk song index at wemakethemusic.org/free music library. The next category of places to look for resources for your grade level song list are field recordings. Now, when I listen to field recordings online, something that sticks out to me is that these have not necessarily been put together with education in mind. So because of that, you might need to do a little digging on your own for songs that are going to be appropriate to use with specific concepts. But the hunt is well worth it, and if you enjoy going down rabbit holes like I do, you can really get get lost in some of these resources. The first one that I really enjoy is the Smithsonian Folkways website. Now, this is a pretty well-known place to start when you're looking for folk materials. This is an expansive collection of songs from all across the globe. So this is a really great starting point for all of your rabbit hole searches. The next place is the Field Recording Collection from Alan Lomax. If you're not familiar with his work, he dedicated just decades and decades to preserving cultural materials across the world. These recordings have been digitized along with some photographs and some video collections from his past work. You can search by location, so New York or Italy or Puerto Rico. You can also search by genre, so children's song, work song, lullaby, things like that. The third place to go for recordings is a website called the Global Jukebox. I have spent hours on this site. There is an amazing interactive map where you can search for songs based on their geographical location. So if you zoom in on Mexico City, you can hear all of the songs that have been recorded from Mexico City, as well as connecting lines to other regions of the world. So you can see where musical patterns, musical trends connect. It is fascinating work. Okay, choosing songs for your classroom is a deeply personal process. It is bound in your own philosophy of music education. It is bound in your students' stories and the musical backgrounds that they have and that they carry into your classroom. It is also arguably the most important thing that you can do for your year because your repertoire is the curriculum. When we source materials for our students, we are creating a musical and a cultural framework from which they are going to learn everything in our music room. It is a very big job, and if we do it well, it's one that is immensely rewarding for us. I would love to know some of your favorite resources for creating grade level song lists. I am always looking to expand my collection of resources, and so I'd love to share out some of your favorites as well. Thank you so much for watching, and happy teaching!